But I just want to start with what happened down the road in Virginia, my home state of Virginia. We're very close to Virginia, of course, here in Washington, D.C., because tonight's ballot initiative would not have even been on the table. We would not even be talking about it. There wouldn't have been a vote tonight. There wouldn't have been a net gain of 4 seats potentially here had it not been for Donald Trump. That's right. He set up his own defeat tonight. And the reason is that there is nothing more important to the man than holding on to power. And he has shown he is willing to do almost anything to hold on to it. So remember last summer, I was thinking about this today and I thought it wasn't as long back, but it was last summer. Trump was already running against the headwinds of being the party in power. And he also was running basically sort of on a deeply unpopular signature legislative achievement in the big ugly bill. I mean, honestly, what swing district Republican wants to run on cutting Medicaid and giving big tax cuts to the rich? It's not exactly a bumper sticker or a good campaign ad. So Trump decided there wasn't really a path to winning on the merits of his accomplishments. And instead, he put in place a process to rig the game in the Republicans' favor, or he tried to, I should say. I mean, he pressured Republicans last summer, first in Texas, to redraw their maps to eliminate districts that favored Democrats, effectively trying to guarantee that Republicans had a lock on more seats than they otherwise would have had this November. But Trump's goal at the time wasn't only to prevent Democrats from winning back the House. His goal was to create a virtually insurmountable Republican advantage, saying that he wanted Republicans to achieve a 100-seat majority. But the thing was, redistricting in the middle of the decade was so unusual, and it was a tough sell at first, even in a deep red state like Texas. Well, Trump insisted he was, quote, entitled to 5 extra seats in that state. It took months for the president to strong-arm Governor Greg Abbott into actually pushing it through, although eventually he certainly did. But in doing so, there was plenty that Trump and his MAGA buddies didn't anticipate. For one, they didn't anticipate that that would trigger a redistricting arms race, essentially, that leading Democrats would fight back to even the playing field, starting in California, where Governor Gavin Newsom spearheaded a push to temporarily match the advantage Republicans had achieved in Texas, seat for seat, until, of course, after the census in 2030. But unlike Texas, California actually made sure its residents had the opportunity to vote on the plan, which was, of course, approved by a wide margin. But that's a key difference. In Missouri, Democratic pushback has slowed Republican redistricting efforts to basically a crawl. In Indiana, a state entirely led by Republicans, the Democratic pushback was strong enough to keep Republicans from being able to push through a redistricting process at all. Democrats also prevailed in Utah, where they were somehow able to stop the Republican-led effort in court and even create a safe Democratic seat of their own. Now, it hasn't been 100% success for Democrats. Republicans have squeezed some extra seats out of states like Missouri and North Carolina. But Virginia was the latest frontier where Democrats have now turned the tables to level the playing field. Now, the other thing Republicans probably didn't anticipate when they kicked off this redistricting fight was that Trump would make the political landscape so much worse for them from when it started last summer. I mean, since then, he started a costly, completely unnecessary war with no end in sight, not to mention the spike in gas prices that came along with it. He continued to push a tariff policy so bad and so illegal that the government now has to give the money back, or that's literally a process going on now. He stonewalled the country over the release of the Epstein files. His sycophantic clown car of a cabinet can't seem to go a day without creating an eye-popping new scandal. And that's not to mention the unprecedented appearance of self-dealing and corruption from the president to his sons to members of his cabinet. So this vote today is about leveling the playing field and making sure the redistricting arms race Trump started doesn't go unanswered. But it's also a sign that people in this country are fed up. They're pissed off. And they're not going to allow him to do whatever he can to hold on to power as much as he wants to and as much as he's willing to. Just take a look at a new poll. It's not just the votes. That's a big part of it. It's also the protests. But take a look at a new poll out from AP today, because it is some numbers that they're jaw-dropping. I mean, Trump's approval rating is down to just 33%. That's right. Only 33% of Americans approve of the job Trump is doing, while a full 67% disapprove, which means he's underwater by 34 points. And he's even more unpopular on the issue that arguably propelled him back into the White House, the economy. A whopping 70% of Americans disapprove of President Trump's handling of the economy. Well, just 30% approve, putting him a full 40 points underwater, which is the worst number of his term so far. And when it comes to the cost of living, Trump is underwater by 53 points, with 76% of Americans disapproving and just 23% approving. In other words, the political environment today is far more favorable to Democrats than it was over the summer. And that trend has held when voters have headed to the polls as well. Democrats have now flipped 30 state legislative seats, and they have massively overperformed, even in some of the reddest House seats in the country. And you can tell, this is a sure tell, how scared Republicans are about their majority slipping away, and just by the disingenuous and deceptive tactics they've been using, including in Virginia. I mean, Virginia residents have seen their mailboxes absolutely bombarded by mailers on both sides. The yes mailers are pretty straightforward. I have a couple of them here. You know, they're pretty straightforward. They have Barack Obama on them, Abigail Spanberger. Many of them plainly say that they're from the Democratic Party. And Obama has even cut ads urging Virginians to vote yes.
In April, Virginians can respond by making sure your voting power is not diminished by what Republicans are doing in other states. This amendment gives you the power to level the playing field in the midterms this fall.
Pretty straightforward, right? He's saying, vote for this, level the playing field this fall. But like a group of wounded animals, Republicans see the political trouble they're in. They're getting desperate, and they're playing very dirty. The no mailers, many from outside groups funded by Republican donors, also use President Obama and Governor Spanberger. And I have a bunch of those sitting right here, too, and we're going to show them on the screen if we can as well. Okay, these are no mailers. And they use past comments they've made against Republican gerrymandering in general, suggesting they are against the very redistricting effort that they both have campaigned in favor of. One flyer shows a black family on it. You can see it on your screen right there. Quotes Obama and Spanberger and a former local NAACP head. And reporting by Mother Jones found that the money behind that mailer, as well as another one comparing a yes vote on redistricting to Jim Crow, came from a dark money group. And the PAC behind the mailers, Justice for Democracy, received millions of dollars from a group that has previously taken large sums of money from billionaire and J.D. Vance ally Peter Thiel. In an effort to muddy the waters even more, the Republican-led No campaign has run ads like this one.
Because of things like political gerrymandering, our parties have moved further and further apart, and it's harder and harder to find common ground.
That's why 2/3 of Virginians voted to end partisan gerrymandering. But Richmond politicians want to shred our bipartisan process and draw maps for themselves again.
So misleading. Those comments are, of course, not about the current state of play. They're not about Trump starting this redistricting battle by pushing Governor Abbott to do it. They're out of context completely. And to be clear, Obama supported voting yes. You saw him say it himself in the original ad just a second ago. But these are the tactics that the Republicans have had to resort to. And it's also a sign, as much as Democrats won this one tonight, and they've won many, 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 but it's a sign of what kind of dirty tricks they may try come November. But the other thing to take away from tonight is that the energy and will of the voters is far more powerful than anyone, including Trump, was betting on. And that is a very good sign for Democrats, just over 6 months out from the midterm elections.